We will continue with the food safety and HACCP, and I will again request the counselors and students to please ask the question. In this session, our expert from outside, Dr. Amresh, will be focusing on the implementation part of the food safety. I will request him to first respond to the question made by Mr. Malik, particularly about allergens, and then he will be sharing the practical experiences in implementing HACCP with you. Dr. Amresh, please.
Thank you, Dr. Saluja. Thank you very much. Okay, we will welcome back to the session. We will begin with the question of Mr. Mukesh Malik. He was asking about whether allergens should be a part of this discussion. Yes, very much. Allergens should be a part of this discussion. Okay, basically, what is an allergy? Allergy is an unwanted reaction which our body cannot sustain. Which cannot go with our body. To give a few examples which are related to food allergies, there are few things like proteins, specifically some proteins from soya bean. Okay, when these things are consumed, some people are able to digest them and utilize them in their body, but I have seen some of the reactions practically when some soya protein containing products are given to pregnant women. Okay, they actually develop rashes and unwanted reactions on their skin, and they cannot utilize these particular proteins. These are such type of allergies are there. Then second type of allergies which are there is like the allergens which are allergic substances which are produced by genetically modified organisms, about which very less data is available. And the third is about the this is one of the oldest known allergies. It's like lactose intolerance. Okay, babies which doesn't have lactase, which can break down lactose sugar, cannot digest this particular lactose. Okay, so in such situations our body responds in a negative way. It cannot use them. These are all allergies, and what is being done about it? Okay, or what needs to be done about it? Okay, when we discuss about allergens, one is that the individual needs to understand to what items and to what compounds he is allergic to. Okay, that probably happens if it is consumed once or twice. Okay, before that it's really not possible to know it. Okay, and the best medicine or best treatment for these allergic reactions is to avoid them. Okay, generally when somebody consumes a food and gets an allergic reaction, an unwanted reaction, doctor also advises them to discontinue with it. Okay, be away from it. That's about allergens. Okay, and what regulations and rules and food laws are doing about allergens? Yes, they are very positive, and they have certain things, certain requirements like labeling requirements. Okay, if a person is aware that he or she is allergic to, say, something like soya, okay, they can look into the label and see if there is a content of soya in it, or if there is a content of egg in it. So it's more of our own awareness and mass awareness about what allergens are, how they are being printed on different food labeling of the products, and then to stay away with it if we are not able to if we are not able to assimilate them. Okay, and this phenylketouric which I just spoke about is also an example like that. If you see any product containing aspartame is produced or synthesized by using phenylalanine and aspartic acid. Okay, this aspartame serves as an artificial sweetener. It is used in many diet soft drinks and some of the sweets and juices, all this. Okay, what happens in this particular in this thing is, okay, when aspartame is taken into the body, at that time it contains phenylalanine. Phenylalanine cannot be assimilated by these phenylketouric people, and it leads to imbalance in the body. Okay, that's about allergens and phenylketourics, and let's move on to our next topic, GMOs. Okay, this is one of the hot topics, very important topics being discussed these days in several forums, several factors, all this. And let's see what GMOs are. Okay, GMO is nothing but genetically modified organisms. Okay, how they are being modified, how genetically modified organisms are being produced. Okay, let's go back to the slide. We'll explain you through the diagrams. Okay, okay, here what happens is that let's discuss about what is the purpose. Okay, there are some plants which are being used as food. Okay, the main purpose of doing genetic modification is to get some desired characteristics in it, either to enhance nutritional values or to get disease resistance or any other yield related things. Okay, so here there are genes isolated from different organisms. It can be from a bacterium or it can be a virus. Okay, from this, and this is then made into a recombinant gene, or it's called a transgene. Okay, then these transgenes will have the characteristic of inducing those characteristics into the plant into which these genes will be induced. Then a transgenic plant is produced after injecting this transgene into the normal cell. Okay, now why GMO has gained so much importance? We have discussed about the benefits. It will give us disease resistant or chemical resistant, high yielding and nutritional value products. But why they are being discouraged? Why people are not really towards GMO? Okay, I'll brief you about that. Okay, now reason is like this. GMO is a very recent development. Okay, there is little scientific study about their health risks. Okay, and then safety test technology is inadequate to assess the potential harm. Okay, they can carry unpredictable toxins. Okay, like what Mr. Malik was mentioning, these toxins can be allergic or they can be even fatal also. Okay, then they may increase the risk of allergenic reactions too. These are four major things. Now see what is happening in a genetically modified organism which is being used as food. Okay, this DNA does not always fully break down into in the alimentary canal. Okay, here the gut bacteria can take up the genes and GM plasmids, and this opens up the possibility of the spread of antibiotic resistance. For example, we have isolated an antibiotic resistance producing gene. Okay, what happens if that gets into our tract and it is not digested or degraded fully and enters into some other bacteria? Okay, if in the plasmids, etc., then the disease, the antibiotic resistance can even come to those microorganisms. Okay, which can be fatal in treating some diseases, which is not favorable in treating some of the diseases. Okay, then second thing is that insertion of gene into the genome. See, very important thing to observe is that we are trying to play with the natural genome of an organism. Okay, here insertion of genes into a genome can also result in unintended effects. Okay, we are only trying to get some of the beneficial things like herbicide resistance or nutritional value, but there can be unintended effects which need to be reduced or eliminated by selection. Since some of the ways of inserted genes expresses themselves in host of way, they can affect the crop own genes are unpredictable. Okay, what happens is that we have some expectations and then we inject this gene. Okay, if it has got some unpredictable manifestation, if it has got certain things which are not directly known to us and not traceable easily, then problems can occur. Then genetically modified foods can become a food safety concern. Okay, as already discussed, they can also lead to toxic allergenic compounds. Okay, and since we are not aware what they can produce, okay, we cannot analyze and control them. Okay, look at the last part of the slide. This flower SAVR, this is one of the genetically modified tomatoes produced in USA for which safety risk was assessed. Okay, then if it is risky, what should we do? Okay, what is the way forward for the GMOs? Okay, GMOs way forward is that there has to be a very stringent and adequate reference frame or a framework need to be worked out to assess their risk. Okay, it should be well tried, well assessed, and all possible uncertainties need to be taken care of before genetically modified foods are being put into market. Okay, for any economic reason or any market reasons, genetically modified foods should not be just pushed like that, thinking that they are safe. Overall aspects of where majority of our foodborne illnesses are found, whether it is at home, whether it is with the processed foods, whether it is at catering institutions, there is a small statistics which I would like to share with you. Okay, this is here the majority of the food outbreaks, as we all know, happens in large scale scatterings. Okay, almost 53% of total outbreaks are in large scale catering premises. It may be in hotel or it may be in cafe, restaurants, etc. And then second thing is that institutions, including nurseries, nursing homes, these are second aspect. Then third one is about catered functions. It may be one time event like a marriage or any event where food is being catered. Okay. Then other includes like farms, retailers also contribute to 21% of the total outbreaks, and this is the statistics from India. Okay, if you see here, these numbers which are reflective are only an indicative numbers. Okay, why? Because okay, many of the food safety illness or foodborne diseases that occur are not reported. Just imagine ourselves. Okay, if we are falling sick because of certain food poisoning, is it being captured anywhere? No. If it is a mass concern, then it is being captured. That's where the data might be not fully realistic, but only limited to the extent to which it is captured.
Mr. Amrish, any information about the particularly unorganized or street food data? Where does it?
Yes, there is one important information which I would like to share here about the street food. This one specifically, if we take situations like in Delhi. Okay, what is happening next year? We are coming up with the Commonwealth Games, and a lot of things have been organized, and in whether it is there or not, but Ministry of Food Processing, Ministry of Health, they are actually bringing up with so many schemes and so many developmental activities to educate street food vendors. I would have brought some of the brochures which are being brought out by Ministry of Food Processing, Confederation of Indian Industries, and Ministry of Health. Okay, they are doing a mass drive to educate street food vendors. Okay, here general practices of hygiene need to be taken care specifically, and they need to use the right ingredients to prepare foods. That is what is important from a street food vendor. These are some more important considerations what we should follow at our home or at institutional catering or at street food vendors. Okay, choose processed raw materials. Pack cooked foods as soon as possible. Then store cooked food at a temperature beyond danger zone. We'll discuss what a danger zone is. Danger zone is basically a temperature range where the pathogenic or any other pathogenic microbes especially can grow very easily, multiply, and intoxicate the food. This is the danger zone. Okay, so that's why either we cook it and store it, or we store it at a lower refrigerated temperature. Okay, then reheat cooked food thoroughly. Avoid cross contamination. This is mainly about the cleanliness of hands, etc. Then be clean, keep clean, and deliver clean. This is for the catering industry. Then ensure pest control. Pests can also be a means of contamination for you. The pests move here and there, and they can bring pathogenic microbes from either the sewage or from elsewhere, wherever they go, and they can contaminate your food because they move everywhere. Okay, then use potable water for processing. As I was earlier discussing, water quality forms a most important thing in making the food safe. If you take all ingredients right, and if you don't take the right or safe potable water for processing, that can become unsafe. Okay, then and whenever you are not sure that this is not the right food or this is a spoiled food, just don't take any chance and just discard it. That's how. If you buy a processed or packaged food, something like say like a juice packet, if it is bulging, and that shows there is an anaerobic reaction inside, and there is a gas production, and if you are not very sure whether it is bulging or not bulging, whenever you are in doubt, just discard it. Now let's come to the implementation part of food safety. So just to summarize before we move on to this, I would like to tell, we have discussed about what is food safety, different terminologies in food safety, and what we should do at different levels, at home, at catering institutions and establishments, and what are the risks associated with different food hazards, that we have discussed. Now we will come to this major aspects of food safety management system. In our individual homes, we may not actually implement a system, but we follow general hygienic principles. But when it comes to large manufactured foods or processed foods, okay, having a system in place is very, very important, because these activities are being done routinely every time, and every time we need to produce the safe food. So having a system in place is very important in manufacturing sector. Okay. Here we will be discussing about what is HACCP and what are the hazards, and then steps in implementation of HACCP. Let's take an example and see how we can do HACCP. HACCP is an internationally accepted and proactive system, or it's a preventive system, and it's a systematic methodology to develop systems and processes to make food safe. Okay, so this is a methodology, that is a systematic approach. The important point is that it does not test the food and say that whether it is safe or not. It focuses on the processes and practices which are employed in producing these foods, handling these foods, and transporting them. So if our inputs and processes are safe, if we follow the right practices, then the outcome is safe. That's what is the spirit behind HACCP. This is about the HACCP began long back as a concept in 1960s. This NASA, the Aerospace Administration of USA, they were planning to produce an absolutely zero defect safe food for their astronauts. Imagine in space there is no one to take care of, so they should be very sure that whatever food they carry, it's absolutely safe and doesn't hinder their operation or mission. And that's from where it started as this one. Then they requested the US Army lab, and then a company called Pillsbury. This is known to all of us, Pillsbury brand, and they were given this challenge to develop a zero defect or completely safe food. From there began the development of HACCP. Then later, based on the failure mode effect analysis, this Pillsbury company came up with a standard guideline and a standard for HACCP, principles and practices of which will follow this discussion. And then later, Codex Alimentarius standardized this. Okay, they come up with certain standards, and then Codex Alimentarius, which is a part of the FAO and WHO, all have standardized these HACCP guidelines and standards. In HACCP, now it is not only the manufacturing activity that is being taken care of, it is from farm, from the production level till it is processed, and even beyond that also. Even beyond is about how it is consumed and how it is utilized by human beings, how it is handled. Till then the scope of HACCP as a food safety management system encompasses. Now, what majorly it focuses on? It focuses on risks. Okay, we have discussed about risks earlier. It focuses on identifying risks. If I just take a bottle of water, okay, it says, okay, this bottle is produced. What are the risks involved, or what are the hazards involved in producing this, and what can come into this? It focuses that. Then it establishes something called CCPs, critical control points. Okay, this is a step in the production or handling process, okay, beyond which where a control measure need to be put in place. For example, I'll take an example and say, if it is a water processing, if E. coli is a hazard, okay, the critical control point is a step in the process where some action need to be taken. It may be disinfection using various methods. Such action need to be taken to control this hazard. Okay, that is a critical control point. If the hazard passes beyond this step, and then it will be then the hazard can go into the product. Then set control limits. For example, when disinfection is being done, say, take for example, it is being done using chlorination. Okay, there is a range in which chlorination can control pathogens. Okay, so any process that is being set will not be always functioning at the targeted this one, there will be some process variations. That is why we have to set control limits. So whenever the concentration of the disinfectant chemical goes varies and goes beyond certain limit, it needs to be controlled. It needs to be kept in control to ensure that the process is always taking care of disinfecting the water and killing the microorganisms or pathogens. Okay. Then next one is it's about the control measures, and it's not about one time doing it. We need to validate the control measures. Okay, we need to validate and see whether has it being actually taken care of. We have to test and confirm the results, and then monitor it on an ongoing basis. This is in nutshell about HACCP. Now, what are the benefits of HACCP? The main benefits are that we already saw what can happen if food safety things go wrong. If food safety is not ensured, or if there is a foodborne illness, we have seen what can go wrong. So all those things can be avoided by implementing a HACCP or a food safety management system, a plan. Okay, then this is like enhance food safety and reduce risk of foodborne illnesses. It also provides greater confidence from a company point of view or from a manufacturing firm point of view. It enhances the confidence of the customers in the products being produced. Then next one is reduction in production costs through reduced wastages. For example, if something unsafe is produced and recognized within the factory, okay, then that goes as a wastage. If it is not reworkable, then wastage is there. But if you put HACCP in system, those wastages can be avoided. Then facilities compliance with statutory requirements. In countries, there are legislations where HACCP certification would be compulsory for any food processing industry. So here, certifying for HACCP can automatically make a facility, food producing facility, compliant with regulatory requirements. Okay, then also the current and potential hazards can be identified and removed or modified. Okay. Then reduce the number of customer audits, cost and management time. This is from a economic point of the companies or the firms which are producing the food products, packaged food products. If there are a lot of complaints regarding food safety, then there will be a lot of customer audits, and it's a waste of time as well as it's a waste of money, and it's so these things can be taken care of by implementing HACCP. This is again, by implementing HACCP, we also follow the international norms. There, codex and other certification bodies, accreditation bodies make a harmonization of systems across. Whatever system is followed in the USA or maybe in Europe or in India, it will be uniform. For example, if a company is certified for say ISO 22000 or HACCP in India, they would also follow the same set of procedures and protocols like what is being followed in other countries. So this forms a harmonization. Okay, when there is a cross-border trade occurring, if you tell to an outsider that okay, my company or a factory or a food facility is certified as per HACCP, then yes, it gives him a confidence and comfort level. Yes, okay, your products are safe to import into our country. So that is the advantage. Now we will again come back to the major types of hazards that are there in this one. This is physical, chemical and biological again. Just to show you some of the physical hazards, this can be anything from right from a hair, bone or a seed or a metal piece. Why all these things are listed is that based on the process it's being followed, this can become a physical hazard if it becomes a part of this. Hair is a common hazard which we have seen, and other things like you might ask how metal pieces can come. Okay, usually metal pieces of nuts and bolts which are used for manufacturing these foods, if they are loose and if the machinery design is not adequate, then these can fall into the food and they can come. For example, if any of you are working with the biscuit industry, generally staplers and stapling pins are not allowed to be used anywhere near the processing area at all, because stapler pins are, if fallen into a dough or a flour, it becomes very difficult to isolate them or to identify them. So there are some such practices to avoid physical hazards. Then chemical hazards, this is what we discussed earlier. It's a list of that, like agricultural residues, chemicals, veterinary. I'm just refreshing it to keep it alive while we go ahead. And then last one, which we didn't discuss earlier, is about radioactive residues. Okay, from where these can come. Okay, this can also this can be a part of the earth. If you see the specification or standard of IS 14543, that is packaged drinking water standard, there is a requirement to test for alpha and beta, gross alpha and beta activity. Okay, this particular thing to ensure that whatever we consume does not have any radioactive material going inside. Okay, now microbiological hazard. This is a broader list of commonly occurring pathogens which we are supposed to prevent while producing foods. Then I was mentioning about a danger zone. Okay, this is a zone. Okay, in between these temperatures, bacteria grow very rapidly. So that's why food should not be kept at this comfort zone. Either it should be hot or it should be too cold, where microbes cannot grow or the pathogens cannot grow. These are some of the biological hazards. This can specifically come into the farm products or any of the industries using fresh produce. This is various sources of contamination again. Now, who requires HACCP? Okay, HACCP is required by each and every food producing industry, be it a very complicated product or a simple product like water. Okay, for all of us, water is a very single compound and single product, but still water is so complicated as a treatment product. Okay, if you see the standards and specifications, water has the maximum number of parameters to take care of and compared to others. If there are 15 specifications for a product like biscuit, there are more than 100 parameters and analytes which need to be analyzed and taken care of for water. Like packaged drinking water has got a list of 32 pesticides and a whole list of 25 heavy metals and other industrial pollutants. So the list is longer even for a simple this one. That is why each and every facility which is taking care of, which is actually producing food and related products, should implement HACCP. Something like a low acid canned food, seafood, dairy, it may be a poultry, it may be fruits and vegetables. Everybody requires an HACCP to be implemented. It is both for the benefit of the company and it is both for the benefit of the consumers and economy as a whole. And then of late, what is there? I mean, companies and organized manufacturers have been more proactive in terms of implementing these systems. But when it comes to hotels and restaurants, the trend is picking up. Some of the hotels are already getting themselves certified for food safety management systems. There are also certain audits like good catering practices, which are specific to hotel industry and catering institutions. They can follow that and get certified. Let's look into the main 7 principles of HACCP. Okay, what it says conduct a hazard analysis. If I take a say like a juice bottling unit, say it's a mango based juice bottling unit, okay, what can come there? Okay, what are the ingredients? They have mango pulp and then sugar, water. So if we take this example, what type of hazard can come? Okay, from a mango, any insect can come if it is not processed properly. Okay, and second thing is that it can also get some of the insecticides which are used while producing mango. And then third one is that sugar, we are also adding sugar into it. Okay, sugar is also an agricultural crop, and that can also bring in pesticide residues into it. So be it whatever may be the process, it may be a water producing, it may be a biscuit producing or a juice producing, we need to know what type of hazards and where it comes. That is conducting hazard analysis. Second principle is that determine the critical control points. Just determine if there are 7 steps in a process or 8 steps in a process, determine where we can control it, where we can effectively control it. For example, in a juice basing this one, or in a milk processing unit, pasteurization is a critical control point. Similarly, establish critical limits. For what we should establish critical limits? If it is a pasteurization process, we should know at what temperature and what time it needs to be pasteurized. So those limits need to be established. Okay, if 90 degrees Celsius is required for pasteurization, then give a safety margin and ensure that the temperature is always maintained in that range where the hazards are taken care of or eliminated. Then establish a system to monitor and control the CCP. What can happen when machineries or any processes are being employed? At that time, things can malfunction. Important thing is to monitor them. It is not about one time setting, but in a manufacturing, typical manufacturing, this thing, monitoring them and sustaining them is very, very important. Okay, then establish corrective action to be taken when monitoring indicates that particular CCP is not under control. For example, in a step, if you feel that in a juice manufacturing industry process, if you feel that the temperature is not under control, okay, if you say for there is a fall in the temperature for XYZ reasons, okay, during that time, what corrective action we have to take? Okay, corrective action that can be done is the product which is there can be isolated and it can be either discarded or it can be sent for reprocessing if it is technically feasible. Okay, such corrective actions need to be taken care of. And if it is a water industry, then again, if chlorination is not effective, you will have to again divert the water to the a step behind, rechlorinate it and get it back. That's how it is. And then establish documentation for all procedures, records, and appropriate to this principle and their application. Okay, why we should document? Okay, document and procedures. At times, in practical implementation of these standards like HACCP or even maybe any other quality management system, food safety management system, there is a general hindrance or resistance towards documentation. People say, we know why we should write it down. Okay, the importance is that, okay, if it is written down, if it is established as an official procedure, then whether it is XYZ working or ABC working on the process, they need to follow the same thing. It ensures uniformity in the process being followed, and it eliminates human error. And also for experienced people or for a new joinees, it can form a reference. It can actually go as a training reference and ready reckoner for them. That is the importance of a documentation and training. Then establish procedures for verification to confirm that HACCP system is working effectively. For complete effective working of HACCP, one important thing is that we have to verify it. These are verified either through an internal audit, or it can be through an external audit, or it can be through a routine checklist based verification. So if we keep verifying and ensuring by verification that things are in process, then only HACCP can be effectively implemented. Or else if it is just done on the inaugural day and then left it to itself, probably over a period of time system degrades or system may get loosened. Everything may not be followed as written. So audits and verifications are very, very important and integral part of HACCP or food safety management system. Steps in implementation. Okay, in the steps in implementation, what is the first step? First step is that in a factory, in a company where there are hundreds of workers, okay, everybody needs to be involved. Okay, it is everybody's business, right from the top management to the person working on the shop floor or connected anywhere, whoever is entering including the visitor, okay, need to be under the scope of a food safety management system. Okay. However, for a core team need to be established. Okay, even in core teams there are two things. One is a implementing team and other is a verification team. This is done to avoid bias. Okay, if I or any individual does it, there can be a bias saying that okay, I have done it right. Okay, verification need to be an independent and unbiased verification. Hence, there is a verification team. Okay, this is the first step. Okay, in this first step, the core team is trained properly on why we should do HACCP and how it should be done. Okay, then this core team will go ahead and educate all the people in the shop floor or in the all our departments or other sections which are connected to this. They will make procedures and practices in place and they will train them. Then second thing, describe the product. Okay, why product description is important in HACCP? To ensure that I was just giving a unique example of that phenyl ketouric. Okay, so describing the product is very important. If it is a product containing aspartame, then it is very essential to describe that this product should not be used by a person having phenyl ketouric problem. And it also need to describe other things like whether it is a low acid food or whether it is a high acid food. Okay, then this description suitably need to be given on the label, so that the product is safe and is consumed as per intended use. Then next, the third stage is identify the products of intended use. This is also part of describing it. And then fourth one is the process flow diagram. After describing the products, we have to, I have just given a typical flow diagram by the side of this. Okay, this is just a representation. It's not a complete process as a whole, because process as a whole would depend and would vary based on the source water and all that. This is a water treatment process. Okay, in this water treatment process, we have taken source water, and there is a process of disinfection and sand filtration. Okay, like this, each and every process connected with the food safety need to be put in a flow diagram or a flow chart. The importance of this is it will help us in identifying, identifying hazards, and it will be a further reference for our HACCP related work. Okay, now take this example. Then it is about, after making the flow diagram, this flow diagram need to be compared on site, whether our flow diagram made is as per actually what process is being followed or not. The general practice in the food industry is that, okay, the on-site, the flow diagram is made on-site itself, so that it matches exactly with it, and then it is verified by the verification team. Okay, this is how it is. If we take the example of this here, the hazard is E. coli. Okay, which can come into source water if there is a contamination. Okay, now what kind of steps can be taken care to prevent or disinfect the water? There are various methods and steps to disinfect water. Okay, this including ozonation, chlorination, UV treatment, and chlorination is one of them. Okay, and there are levels to maintain right levels of chlorine, and then critical limits need to be established. This is one of the examples where hazard, critical limits, and critical control points can be established. Okay, then here determining CCP. Take this example here. Critical control point is where it is being tested and where it should not go ahead of it. Okay, if it goes ahead of this filtration, then further it cannot be the hazard cannot be controlled. That's why this becomes a critical control point. So if it is found that here the chlorine level is less, this has to go back to the water storage and again gets disinfected and come back. Then target levels of limits. Then we also need to look into monitoring procedures, corrective actions, verifications, documentation, record keeping importance I have already highlighted. This becomes a part of the implementation of HACCP on shop floor in any food manufacturing industry. Okay, how it is being done? Okay, globally there are various standards. They are all food safety management standards, but there is slight variation based on the origin from where they are coming. Like a standard HACCP certification can be done based on the Codex guidelines. Then there is a standard which has come later is like ISO 22000. This encompasses HACCP as well as some of the elements of ISO 9001 2000. Okay, then ISO 9001 2000 also got slightly revised in 2008, but this is the system part of it. Then there is one more food safety management system called IFS, which is International Food Standard. This includes HACCP requirements as well as certain requirements for handling allergens and genetically modified organisms. And then the fourth one is BRC. This is food safety system as per HACCP based on British Retail Consortium. Okay, then other one is SQF, Safe Quality Food. This is another standard. Okay, and let's quickly see why sometimes HACCP, though implemented certified, cannot be effective. It is like absence of legal requirements, and maybe top management may not be fully committed to doing the required actions. Okay, and most typical what happens is that if the system is not actually designed and written and implemented by the people who are supposed to do, if it is done by somebody else like a consultant and just put it in the records, then the people who need to implement it in shop floor doesn't know, that can be a lacuna in implementing HACCP system. Okay, just to summarize this particular thing, is like food safety. We have discussed about food safety as a general this one, and a systematic approach based on hazard analysis and establishing critical control points. Okay, it's a global concern. It affects health and well-being and productivity, prosperity and security of the of countries. Then what solutions we can do is that create mass awareness about food safety, then at different levels of catering and other things, we need to, at home level, we need to follow good hygienic practices. Then third one is implementing food safety management systems like HACCP at institutions and manufacturing level, and at farm level and it is putting right legislations and implementing the right veterinary practices or good agricultural practices in place to produce the safe food. So like these days, good agricultural practices is also become a auditing and certification standard. Okay, and then another thing is like, you might have heard about organic products. Organic product is also a latest development, not latest development, but has come into light now. Historically, India has been producing a lot of organic products without artificial fertilizers or insecticides, but now it has come into an official standard. Okay, that can also be a solution to have safe food.
Maybe Dr. Amresh, maybe your example you can just explain and repeat how to do it for our students.
Okay, now let's take this example. This example deals with implementing HACCP system at a water treatment plant. Okay, in water treatment plant, source water is the major raw material, or you can call 100% raw material. Okay, here water is subjected to, as a first step is hazard analysis. Okay, hazard identification, risk identification, hazard analysis. Okay, one of the hazard example which I have taken is like E. coli, Escherichia coli. There can be other hazards also. We can also take into consideration hazards like pesticide residues, which can come from agricultural fields into the source water. Say if our source water is a surface water like a lake, then it can be that can again become a hazard. And here we have identified the hazard. Next is that we have to put control measure. For E. coli, we have put a control measure like chlorination. Okay, then after putting a control measure, we have to establish critical limits. This always may not be at 6 to 8 milligrams per liter, so that's why we have put a critical limits called, it should be always within 6.5 to 8.5 milligrams per liter. So here what happens, the moment it goes slightly near to this, the person operating the process will control it either by increasing the flow or based on the system whatever is implemented, and increase or decrease the chlorine level. Then this is about critical limits. Then he will record it. That becomes the next part of implementation. Then these things, when recorded and kept, it becomes a part of evidence while auditing and verifying the implementation part of the system.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saloja. Thank you very much.
You repeat.
Hello. Yeah, Mr. Malik, allergens would be a part of this particular discussion, and allergens do come from different sources of food, whether it is from the processing or from genetic modification. Allergens do occur, and we will discuss about it.
Thank you, Mr. Amresh. We will continue the session, and I will request the students and the counselors that they can ask the questions, and when we will be discussing its implementation part in detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor.